I mean, the best term for him is proper bloke. You know, I mean, this was a guy who was a young man, served in the Royal Navy for 6 years in the battle against Nazism, distinguished himself, was mentioned in dispatches, was involved in battles in the Mediterranean. And, you know, he was the young, dashing European member of the royal family, a prince in his own right from birth, but a war hero too. And I think young Queen Elizabeth, as we now know her, but young Elizabeth just fell for him. He was a man 5 years senior to her. She fell for him. They got married. And I think what Philip expected was that there'd be 20 or 30 years before she became the Queen. Tragically, what happened was that George VI, the Queen's father, died age 56. And so suddenly he's thrust at a very young age into being the Queen's consort. And for a guy that had been a naval officer in World War II to effectively walk a couple of steps behind his wife in public service for almost 70 years, and to do it, remember, not just in the United Kingdom, but around the Commonwealth, this amazing organization we have of over 50 countries, 2.5 billion people. He never once complained about the work schedule. He never once complained about the conditions they found themselves in India, Africa, wherever it may have been. And I just think in terms of service and duty, his record is exemplary. Greg, as a human being, let me tell you, he was just great fun to be with. He was always cheeky. He hated political correctness. And he had a very clever way of saying what he thought, but without getting into too much trouble. And I have to say I loved him. And I'll be honest with you, when I saw the message from the Queen about the loss of her beloved husband, even I, as a buttoned-up Englishman, felt quite emotional about it.
Wow, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for your loss, but 99, what a life. And hey, he didn't complain about the schedule. Guess what? That's not as everyone now complains about the schedule. How ironic, especially Meghan. We'll talk about her maybe some other time. Doug, the president of the United States got along very well with the Queen. They had a special connection. What do you know about the president's impressions of Prince Philip?
Well, President Trump's impressions, he was quite taken with Prince Philip and saw him, ironically, as the real example of a man. Now, stop and think of this. He's the consort to the Queen, and yet he stands so erect. He's funny, he's bright, he's intelligent, he's actively out of the news. You don't just don't take calls and expect to not be in the news. You have to be proactive. You got a jawbone with editors and producers to keep your name out. And so the picture spoke for him. He was an example to all Englishmen anywhere of what an Englishman should be: the dignity, the strength, the manhood, and the wit. So the Trumps were very impressed with the royal family.
And the statement the president put out today was absolutely beautiful and heartfelt. The president, you know, people in the fake news believe that, oh, he's a savage, oh, he's a barbarian. It's the opposite. He knows how to behave. And it was one of the most beautiful things I read in a long time. It's really too long to share right now. Hey, Nigel, can I just get your thoughts for a moment? Because so many Americans have been watching The Crown on Netflix. And I got to admit, I watched it. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Looked like Prince Philip, was a very deep man and often conflicted. What did you think about this film or this series?
Well, I think, but I made the point earlier, Greg, that he was an alpha male who suddenly was thrust into this position where he couldn't make the decisions. He once joked that I'm no more than an amoeba. Obviously, he joked in private about that. Look, he adapted to a role that was, I think, quite remarkable. The Crown is very entertaining. The actors and the character portrayals are brilliant. I wouldn't necessarily trust all of the storylines. And I thought some of the coverage of the young Prince Philip was perhaps a little harsh, maybe a touch unfair. Don't make any mistake about it, that Prince Philip and the Queen were utterly devoted to each other and who spent that much time touring the world over 70 years, gaining the respect and admiration of billions of people meant they were a very strong couple, and don't let the crown make you think otherwise.
Understood, sir. Understood. And the one part of President Trump's statement, as we look at Prince Philip as we go to break, over the past few years, Melania and I were honored to have the opportunity to visit the United Kingdom. We saw firsthand how the monarchy epitomizes and carries on the virtues of the British people, and no one did so more than Prince Philip. This is quite a lengthy statement, and the president was quite impressed indeed. To be continued. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.